Look, when we talk about the most unfortunate characters in all of fiction, we have to put Jogo in there, because imagine being one of the strongest characters in your verse, but the general public thinks that you're trash because the two major fights you've been in were against the most broken characters in your verse. And the first time we saw Jogo's misfortune was him against Gojo, which is what I'm covering today. So let's get into it. The scene starts with Gojo being driven to the school by Ichichi, and Gojo's like, nah, I smell fish in the air. Ichichi, stop the car. So a few seconds after Gojo steps out the car, that's when Jogo finally shows his ugly ass. He lands and leaves a crater in the ground, which I'm pretty sure is what would happen if Rihanna were to face plant on the floor with her fat ass forehead. Gojo then pulled out the formalities and asked who might you be, but clearly Jogo wasn't raised in a respectful household because he doesn't respond to his question and hits him with a lava attack. Then this nigga started gassing himself up, talking about some this was easier than I expected. Gojo then pops out of his attack and hits him with the are you sure about that? And right after that, Gojo started an internal monologue talking about how Jogo is stronger than the current Sukuna. And when I heard this for the first time, I thought we were about to witness an elite squabble, because you remember what Sukuna did to the cousin Megumi, right? But I was wrong. I was so fucking wrong. Jogo follows up the previous attack with releasing these insects that look like they carry every type of disease known to mankind, from malaria to Ebola to HIV and AIDS. And obviously these didn't get to Gojo as he stops them with his infinity. But the intent of releasing these bugs was to actually fuck up Gojo's eardrums, then blow him up. But that attack was just like applying cologne to a homeless man. That shit didn't work. Gojo went on to higher ground, but Jogo instant transmission right next to him, then lit up his head and had him looking like the literal definition of the Human Torch. He then hits him with a blast in his back. What? He then hits him with a blast in his back, and this nigga Gojo really does. What? Not Gojo, He then hits him with a blast in his back, and this nigga Jogo doesn't learn. He did this measly combo and thought he had won without even checking to see if there's a dead body. And this is when Jogo got a crash course on Gojo's infinity. Gojo tells him that throughout this entire fight, he hasn't touched him once. And for whatever reason, Jogo had a hard time believing that, and my question is, why? Because you clearly saw Gojo stop your malaria mosquitoes without even touching them. Why are you acting flabbergasted for? And aside from that, if I was in Jogo's shoes, I would have been so pissed off right now. Because imagine you pull up to a fight with intent to kill, and the nigga on the other end is trolling doing shit like this. There is zero reason for you to be in a fight having such a facial expression. And then this nigga Gojo has the audacity to hold Jogo's hand and say, you making me embarrassed too. Like, what? And while Jogo's in reach, Gojo hits him with a gut shot and says, have some more, like your grandmother trying to fatten you during the festive season. And right after that is when we witness Gojo's red for the first time. Using his reversal red, Jogo proceeds to fuck up the landscape and had the boy Jogo flipping and rolling through it, looking like laundry left in the washing machine. Jogo gets on his feet and tries to hit the dash, but Gojo pops up in front of him and takes him out the frame, just so he could get his cheesy light-skinned ass all up in the camera. Imagine someone wiping the floor with you while making sure that the camera recording all of this gets his good side. Tisk tisk. Jogo then tries to do his best impersonation of his fellow short King Levi by running up the tree, but Gojo is one step ahead and pops up right in front of him, grabs him by the face, then drags him across the terrain while riding him like a skateboard. Gojo finally gets off Jogo, and when that happened, he tried to run it back with the purple blast he previously used, but Gojo pops up behind him the same way he did with that attack, and he pulls out this elite kick out of his inventory like he plays for Juventus. He must have seen the motion Cristiano got in a day on YouTube and said, I'm trying to get a piece of that. So while Jogo's in the water contemplating his fuck-ups, Gojo decides to go fetch Yuji so he can give him a lesson on domain expansions. And this is such a flex from Gojo's side, because imagine willingly getting what most would consider on the battlefield and still performing well. And thinking about the interaction that happens between Yuji and Gojo right after Gojo fetches him is so funny to me, because Yuji asks how did they move from the school to here in less than 10 seconds, and Gojo then responds saying we warped here. And the reason I say this is funny to me is because earlier on while he was in the car, Ichichi said, yo, we still have a lot of time before your meeting with the principal. Is there any way you want to stop by before we get there? Gojo then responds with, nah, I'll show up early for once. Bro, what? This nigga Gojo is so disrespectful. You mean to tell me he can basically teleport any and everywhere, but he still shows up late to meetings? The fuck? So Jogo sees Yuji and tells Gojo that he fucked up. He shouldn't have brought him here. He's just gonna slow him down. Gojo then responds saying, it's fine. I don't worry about that, because he's just like Netspend's discography, pure garbage. And Jogo's reaction here is understandable because being called garbage is one thing, but being compared to Netspend's music, someone has to die. So Jogo opens his domain, and I wish I could say things started looking up for Jogo, but they didn't. Gojo was in the domain and wasn't even shook up. He was in a domain filled with lava, and not a single drop of sweat was visible on his face. Instead, he took the chance to get Yuji caught up on his syllabus, curriculum, whatever the fuck you call it. Jogo launches his attack, Gojo stops it, lowers his blindfold, and hits him with the... And my boy Jogo was frozen in place like they asked him English or Spanish. Then Gojo pops up right behind him holding Yuji like a purse and rips his head off with ease like he was unwrapping a bag of sweets. They did my boy Jogo dirty, filthy.